I'm just in one of my properties at the moment, which is almost completed. A couple of things I'm going to tell you about which are critical when you are building your own home. One thing in particular is your kitchen, dining, living space, the one that I'm in at the moment. There are some minimums that I like to achieve in terms of dimensions so that you can fit furniture in the property. So you need to be mindful and be able to position furniture into a property because you're not physically going to be able to walk around it when you're building a new home. The other one is the square meterage. My absolute minimum square meters for a living space, so that's kitchen, dining, living, is a minimum of 40 square meters when I'm building a 3-bedroom, or when I'm going bigger, like this one, this is a 5-bedroom. This living space is around 48 to 50 square meters. It's the absolute minimum. So I haven't made it too big, so I'm spending all this money and I'm not gonna get an extra return on it, but I haven't made it too small so that nobody actually wants to live here. And I needed to make it a certain size, especially the living space, where people can fit a proper couch. This property does have a second living space, but it is smaller. So that's the main living space, like lounge. The other consideration is, when you're in the property, so think about you, imagine walking around, you're going to be looking at a set of plans because the property's not going to have been built. So you need to think about where the dining table is going to go. So dining table, how that's going to function with the kitchen. So how are you going to make food and then serve it onto the dining table? And then how are you going to interact both with the dining and the living? And the other consideration, especially in Queensland, is your outdoor living space. A lot of people spend time and a lot of time outdoors because of our weather, our climate. So you need to have a consideration as to how your kitchen, dining, living then flows out to your outdoor space. And then if you're going to have a table outdoors, position the furniture or get the architect or the draftsman to position the furniture for you so you can see what the dimensions are and whether or not a person can actually locate themselves around furniture. Because the last thing you want to do is build a property, whether it's for you to live in or somebody else, it doesn't matter. If it's an investment property like this one, if somebody's living there and they're going to be, hopefully, whether it's you or somebody else, you want to make sure that they're living there comfortably and they're going to be paying you a premium to live in the property. And something as simple as one dimension being out by a couple of 100 millimeters, that can make a big difference in certain spaces. There's a couple of things which I don't like about this property, and I overlooked even with the stuff and the experience that I have. One thing I don't like, and it's only minor, is I don't like small doorways. This doorway should have been a standard doorway. It wasn't. They've put in a 720 door instead of an 820. So this I don't like. I've almost got to go on the side. And then this one's a 720 as well. So this space, I knew it was always going to be a little bit tight, but I didn't realize they'd actually put a 720 door on there. So one thing I was a little bit annoyed about, it's not the end of the world. It just means going through that doorway into the butler's pantry is just a bit smaller. And the butler's pantry for this particular area is a bit of a bonus. That's why it's not like a massive butler's pantry. It is a bonus. Most new homes aren't gonna have a butler's pantry, or if they do, they're gonna be pokey. So I've just met sort of the minimum standard so I know I could get good tenants and it be valued at where it needs to be valued. But I didn't go over the top. I didn't put a massive butler's pantry that nobody's going to value. I'm just gonna take you upstairs. Oops. And upstairs is the entrance. So all the bedrooms are upstairs in this particular one, living is downstairs. So you go through the entrance, which is just behind me, and you walk through another hallway. This block is long and skinny, so unfortunately it wastes a bit of space with hallways. Bathrooms there. Then there's 4 bedrooms up here. 1, 2, 3, 4th bedroom, and then ensuite or walk-in robe and ensuite. So it's a pretty basic layout. It again meets the minimum that people expect for this market, this level of home. But I've made sure that all the bedrooms are usable. They're around 3 by 3 or a little bit bigger. The master bedroom's a bit oversized. So one thing in particular, if you're building a home, is the person either renting it, unless it's a boarding home or something, the person renting it or the person buying it is going to be looking at the size of the master bedroom. So I don't know about you, but I like a master bedroom where I can fit a king bed in, so the bed's more luxurious. I want to be able to fit bedside tables, so one wall needs to be wide enough to fit a king bed and bedside tables, and it also needs to fit a cabinet with a TV. So this room, the size of it's something like 4.5 by 4.5, probably even a bit bigger. And then the other thing, which is critical as well, I'll go back there. The other thing is a walk-in robe. The walk-in robe needs to have enough hanging space. So this one is kind of like bare minimum. I would have preferred to do it a bit bigger. The walk-in robe needs to have enough hanging space so that you can actually hang your clothes and you don't have to have a separate drawer or dresser where you can hang your clothes. So my minimum allowance for a walk-in robe for like a family home like this is going to be 4 meters of space, like wardrobe space, which this one probably just hits the 4 meters. The other one is the ensuite. This ensuite is a little bit smaller than what I would have preferred, but I ran out of space. So it's still big enough to fit like a double shower in there. So it does have double shower. My preference is to have a bathtub, and the other one I'm doing does have a bathtub, the other home. But it's got to be able to fit, in my view, and it depends on the suburb as well. But I like double vanity. This is somewhat upper market property, but it's still hitting that minimum where somebody that's going to be paying $1.5 million for this home is going to want double vanity. They're going to want some sort of a shower in the ensuite. They're going to want a luxurious ensuite, or not like a little tiny pokey one, and they're going to want a master bedroom that fits a king bed. So you need to know the market that you're in. So don't just think just because Adam's building this, I need to build this as well. If you're in a market that's only going to pay you $600,000 or $700,000 for a home, you're not going to be putting all these luxuries in. So this is the second living space, and it's a granny flat, so it doubles as a second living with like a kitchenette and bar. And then it also has the 5th bedroom. So I've oversized this bedroom. Now I know this market has 2 different types of market. There's Chinese and there's Indian buyers or demographic in this area. And a lot of Indians and Chinese like to live with their parents, so with family. And normally they like a second living, and they also like a second master bedroom if they can have it. Now, not many people really think about that, and this property is an investment property. But if somebody's coming to look at an area to rent, it has a couple of different options. So you can either use it as a single home with the one family, and this is like the teenage retreat, or it's a young kids playroom, or you've got the other option if we wanted to sell it, or even, with other tenants, if they're coming in and they're living with their parents have got somewhere separate that they can live in. I even had the additional option to stick a washing machine in there, so this can literally be self-contained as well, and also separate entrance at the front as well. So this room's oversized, and there's another ensuite. So you've got 2 ensuited, ultimately master bedrooms. They're separated from each other. There's 2 living spaces in this, and the market, or the target market value that I'm hitting, is around 1.5 million. And then as a rental return on that, it should be, in excess of about 1,000, or maybe even a bit more, 1,100, 1,200 per week on this property. So that's the market that I'm hitting. And this is kind of like the bare minimum to get there. If I built the home bigger, so if I put an extra $100,000 into the build cost, would I get any more rental return? No, I'm already sort of at that top tier for this market anyway. I don't want to be pushing beyond 1,100 or 1,200. If I start to push beyond that, then I'm now competing with the much larger homes in the area, and I don't want to compete with those. I just want this to be new, fresh, minimalistic, and enough that people can say, hey, I've got a family of 5, 6, I'm living with my parents, this home would suit us. Otherwise, if I push to say 1,400 or 1,300 a week, then I'm starting to compete with some much larger homes that might be dated, but they're going to be much larger on much larger blocks of land. So you got to think about where you're positioned in the market with your pricing as well. And this is just for an investment point of view, if you're looking at property to build and invest, or buy to invest. But when it comes to the sales side of things, you got to think that if you are going to be selling this home, who's it going to be appealing to? So I already know my market, my sales market, and those that are likely going to be paying me a premium. And it's, as I mentioned before, it's the Chinese buyers and it's the Indian buyers, because they can house their parents. And I don't want to specifically narrow myself to that market. So if those people don't buy it for whatever reason, and it doesn't appeal to them, it might have bad feng shui. Now, I didn't get a feng shui consultant, but feng shui, you're not supposed to look from the front door to the back door. So hopefully that meets feng shui requirements. And if you know about feng shui, hopefully I've got this right. So leave me a comment if I've got this wrong, and maybe I need to put something on that window. So if I don't appeal to that market, I still didn't want to rule out the other market. And that other market is young families. So mum and dad with young kids, where this room can act as a child's room or a playroom. Then there's that part of the market, but then there's also the part of the market with teenage. If you've got teenage son, daughter, you can throw them in that section of the house, close the door, and you don't have to worry about them. They can just live in their own section, part of the house. So it's got that multi-use, multi-appeal. I haven't gone really specific hardcore. If I was going, say, into a luxury home, for example, I'd want to be exactly specific down to the very minute details around who my buyer is going to be. This is more, average family suburb. It's not going to be a high-end luxury home where I'm demanding $4 or $5 million for it. If I was building those sort of homes, and if you are in the luxury end of the market, whether you're renovating, building, or buying in that market, just make sure if you do go to on-sell it and you do want to get that premium, you do need to appeal to that point in the market. So I'm not very specific. I've appealed to a lot of different people because it is an investment property. I'm not anticipating on selling it, but I do have those various different options. So different exit strategies. So think about if you do own property and you do want to liquidate it at some point, or you do want to rent it, then you're going to have to think about, well, who's going to be renting it? Are they going to be paying a premium? And how do I get them to pay a premium? So maximize the property so that it's good value for you. It's a good deal for you. And the people coming in, it's obviously a good value for them as well. So people pay you by the bedrooms, they don't pay you by the land area. So the more bedrooms you can have, generally it's better, but it does come down to the suburb. Especially now with affordable housing and the crisis that we're going through, people are going to be living with multifamily homes, for example. Kids are staying at home longer to reduce the cost of their rent and their living expenses. So you got all those things to consider as well, especially now, more than ever. Thanks for watching. If you got any comments, please let me know below. If there's any questions, if I've got this feng shui bit wrong from the front door to the back door, I'd like to know. And anything else, maybe feng shui that you see in the video. Thanks, guys.